Here we go. Red 29. There it is, there it is, there it is, there it is.
The Blue Jays are getting hot with their district opening victory over Mamou last week, 20-6. And that means it's time to talk about it on Blue Jay Preview and Review, where we'll also talk with the head coach of the Blue Jays, a little bit under the weather, Dan Chrisman, but he's feeling a lot better. And, of course, a list of all the games to be played tonight in the state of Louisiana, as well as the results of last night's 11 games. Hello, everybody. I'm John Beltran. Glad to be with you for Week 5. The Blue Jays started off the season with a win, then lost a couple of games against some very tough opponents, and then a fabulous defensive performance again. In 3 of their first 4 games, they've allowed 7 points or less. Of course, that was no exception in this 20-6 victory over the Mamou Green Demons. Let's recap how this ball game went last Friday. The Mamou Green Demons got the first half kickoff, and it was a nice kickoff return to their 38-yard line. However, 3 plays resulted in -1 yard. It was just an unbelievable effort by the Blue Jays. So Mamou had to punt, and the Blue Jays had the ball in excellent field position at their own 43-yard line. Nicky Miller right up the middle for 8 yards, put him in Mamou territory. Nicky Miller for 4. He carried the ball 2 more times. However, the 5th play of the drive resulted in the Blue Jays' first turnover.
Backs in an eye on 3rd and 10. Play action pass, rolling left, looking for a man, throwing on the run. This pass going to be short of the target, and it's going to be intercepted at around the 17-yard line by Joe LaFleur.
Mamou took over at their own 7. 3 plays this time resulted in a worse result than last time. This time they lost 2 yards in 3 plays, so they were forced to punt. An excellent punt put the ball for the Blue Jays at their own 29-yard line, but they started on a long march down the field. 9 plays, 71 yards. Actually, the ball was on the Mamou 29-yard line. Now looking at it a little bit differently, it was on their own 29, so it was actually a poor punt. Let's reverse that whole thing. And the Blue Jays took a 6-0 lead on this play.
2nd and goal. The ball is at the 1-yard line. Will Anders give it to Nicky Miller? Yes, he does. Touchdown, Blue Jays. Nicky Miller scores standing up across the left side, and they take the early 6-0 lead.
The Blue Jays have not converted an extra point since the Marksville game, which they lost 41-7, and this game, again, was no exception. They missed the extra point on a mishandled snap by the placeholder Michael Frugier. Mamou took over possession, trying to come back at their own 15-yard line. Their first 2 plays resulted in 13 yards and a first down. However, 3 plays later, on a 3rd down, it was Josh Andrus with a big defensive play.
The ball is at the 29. Back to throw with backside pressure. Josh Andrus will nail the quarterback in a fumble, and they were saying that he's down.
And St. Ed's took over on their own 41-yard line following a short punt, but they couldn't do much with the ball. 4 plays, 5 yards, and they turned it over on down, so it was back to Mamou. And for the first time in the ballgame, Mamou had real good field position on their own 40-yard line, but could only gain 2 yards on 3 plays. Again, this was the story of the first half for the Mamou offense. They were absolutely anemic, so they punted over back to the Blue Jays, who took over, again in pretty good field position on their own 35-yard line. The first play was a pass completion, the first one by Josh Andrus in the ballgame to Freddie Frugier for 9 yards. 2 plays later, Nicky Miller up the middle for 6, and that was a first down. However, 2 plays later, Andrus with his second miscue of the ball game.
2nd and 13 from their own 48. Andrus rolling rights, getting some pressure, throw off his back foot. He does not have a man out there. That will be intercepted at the 17-yard line. Again, the 17, not by Joe LaFleur this time, but by Brandon Griffith.
But the Green Demons could do nothing with the football, gaining 8 yards in 3 plays, so St. Ed's had it again, this time in very good field position, again at the 42-yard line of the Green Demons. First play was a run by Nicky Miller for 7 yards, who went over 100 yards, incidentally, for this ball game. But the Blue Jays turned it over on downs for the 2nd time in 3 possessions. So Mamou took over at their own 47-yard line. Starting quarterback Brandon Griffith threw a couple of passes unsuccessfully, and then a 3rd play was a run for no yards, so they punted over to the St. Edmunds Blue Jays, who ran 3 plays, a couple of them with no time left on the clock, and that was it, the first half score. St. Edmunds 6, Mamou nothing. Yardage in the first half, the Blue Jays with 72 yards on the air and on the ground. Mamou, meanwhile, was held to a very low total of 13 yards. The second half, what a half it was. Mamou started it off with a big surprise.
Gary Captain will kick off for Mamou from the 40-yard line. Standing back there are Nicky Miller and Tony Miller, but it's a onside kick and recovered by Mamou. What a surprise.
The Blue Jays were not ready for that kick, and they weren't ready for the first play from scrimmage.
Now to the left is who's got the ball. I couldn't even see it. Oh, it's the Bumble-Rooski play, picked up by number 68. Let me tell you, they're throwing everything out of their playbook right now and just going with these types of trick plays.
Mamou continued their march down the field, and 9 plays later, tied up the ball game.
3 men in the backfield. Quarterback sneak, touchdown for Brandon Griffith.
And it was 6-6, but the worst enemy for the Blue Jays, the special teams, all of a sudden became their best friend on the extra point.
The snap, it's high, the kick is up, and it's blocked. Beautifully blocked by number 41, Nicky Miller.
So now it was time for the Blue Jays to try and break the tie. They had a pretty good kickoff return to their own 39-yard line. Nicky Miller got the first carry on this possession, and unfortunately, he couldn't hold on to the football.
1st and 10, Blue Jays on their own 39. Nicky Miller will get the handoff. He's got a big hole up the middle. He fumbles the ball. It's on the ground. A Blue Jay might have it. No, it's recovered by David Thomas, number 13, and the 3rd turnover of the ball game for St. Edmunds.
And the ball was at the 50-yard line. However, another 3-play drive. This one, minus 9 yards. I'm telling you, Mamou had nothing on offense. The Blue Jays took over following the punt at their own 29-yard line. You talk about long, sustained drives. They won 13 plays here. The key play, 4th down and short. They actually punted the ball, but there was a penalty on Mamou. So Dan Chrisman, on a 4th and 2 from their own 37-yard line, decided to go for it, and this is what happened.
Gotta love it, the gambler, 4th and 2. Let's see what they do. Josh Andrus, will he hand it off or take it himself? He hands it off. Nicky Miller, first down, across the left side, out across the 40 to the 44.
A series of runs took the Blue Jays to the end of the 3rd quarter, and they continued that drive to the beginning of the 4th quarter, and finally broke the tie.
2nd and goal from the 1. Josh Andrus looking to hand it off. He will take it himself. Josh Andrus on the left side will dive and score! And Josh Andrus scores, and the Blue Jays lead 12-6.
The 2-point conversion was no good, and Mamou trailed the Blue Jays, as I just mentioned, 12-6. They took over on their own 28-yard line, lost 6 yards in the first play, gaining 3 on the second one, and then the Blue Jay defense came up with their first turnover of the ball game.
He is back to pass. Little pressure, throws, passes, intercepted at the 36 by Andrus. 35, 30, cuts left side. Andrus to the 20. Andrus all the way down to the 16. An interception return of 20 yards and a first down for the Blue Jays, who have forced their first turnover of the game.
The Blue Jays tried to put some more distance between themselves and the Green Demons, gaining 12 yards on 3 plays, but sandwiched in between those plays was a 5-yard penalty. So on 4th and short, Josh Andrus set up for a field goal.
And he will set up now for a 27-yard field goal off the foot of Josh Andrus. There's the snap. The kick is up. It's high enough. It is no good. Wide to the left.
So it was up to the Blue Jay defense to again hold down the very low-scoring Mamou offense, and that's exactly what they did. Mamou was forced to punt. There were a series of penalties, 2 against Mamou, 1 against St. Edmunds, but then guess who came through? That's right, folks. They didn't get that 2-point conversion, but they got 2 points the other way.
Captain of punt, Jay Bajeron standing at the 48. That snap. Let's see if number 50's headed for him, and Terry Captain tries to run. That ball's going to be down. A safety. A safety. That was recorded by number 50. That is Brett Fry. Brett Fry tackles Terry Captain in the end zone off the terrible snap. And it's 14-6 St. Edmunds with 5:23 to go, and they'll get the ball back on the free kick.
And on that free kick, they had excellent field position at the Mamou 45 and started a nice long drive. Excellent runs by the substitute halfback, Michael Miller, gaining 12 yards on 2 consecutive carries. And then another 4th down play was a very good one for Michael Miller.
They'll go for it from the 28-yard line. We will give Nicky Miller a yard. Michael Miller with a handoff. He's got daylight. First down. Michael Miller 20. Michael Miller 15, 10, 5. He's all the way inside the 5 and around the 3-yard line. And that's a sizable gain and a first down.
After a 5-yard penalty against the Blue Jays, that set up this game clincher.
1:01 remaining. 1st and goal from the 8. Josh Andrus with Chuck Bowie in the backfield and Nicky Miller. Nicky Miller gets the handoff across the middle. Touchdown this time. There are no flags down.
The Blue Jays won the game 20-6. Of course, the bad news of that, they missed the extra point. Total yardage in the second half, the Blue Jays were absolutely dominant, holding the Mamou offense to 23 yards, so they had 36 total for the game. St. Edmunds, meanwhile, racked up 147 yards for a total of 219 yards in this game. Of course, the offensive player of the game, as I mentioned before, was Nicky Miller, and the defensive player of the game with several big plays was Josh Andrus, even though that defensive effort was a big team effort. Of course, tonight they take on a very tough Elton team who was 3-0 before losing their district opener to Sacred Heart. So it's the 3-1 Elton Indians with a district record of 0-1 taking on the Blue Jays at 2-2 with a district record of 1-0. And when we come back, we'll talk with the head coach, Dan Chrisman. And that's following these messages on your home of St. Edmunds Blue Jays football. You are listening to KJJB Supersports.
St. Landry Homestead Federal Savings Bank has 3 locations to better serve you: Eunice, Opelousas, and Port Barre. They specialize in residential loans with the lowest interest rates in many years. St. Landry Homestead Federal Savings Bank also has consumer loans of all types. At St. Landry Homestead, all loans stay local since it's run by local people. St. Landry Homestead Federal Savings Bank, Eunice, Port Barre, and Opelousas, member FDIC.
How old should a person be and still seek orthodontic care? To be perfectly frank about it, orthodontics can improve a person's dental health and smile at any age. At Smiles Ahead Orthodontics, our primary goal is better oral health, yet we never underestimate personal pride and value of a beautiful smile. At Smiles Ahead, we now have a no-money down payment plan. Smiles Ahead Family Orthodontics, Drs. Ian Harkins and Kirby Gittery. Call 457-8596 or toll free at 1-800-896-5313.
Kickoff is slated for less than 20 minutes as we bring in head coach Dan Chrisman of the Blue Jays. Coach, your team won their district opener 20-6, but somehow a lot of people are saying that you probably played a crisper game against Iota. How do you feel about your team's performance last Friday in relation to the prior game against Iota, even though you won this game by 14 points?
Well, I thought that there might be a letdown against Mamou after playing Marksville and Iota, and I kind of felt that there would be one, and there was, but to our credit, the kids in the fourth quarter buckled it up and they got after them and they won the game.
4th and 2 on your own 37, Coach. In the third quarter, the game was tied at 6. Do you feel you had to make something happen since your kids were not dominating this game, at least on the scoreboard?
Well, I felt real good about the way our defense was playing at the time, and I had confidence in our offensive line that they could get the job done, and they did.
Now, your worst enemy turned out to be your best friend, and we'll make this quick because I know you're suffering here with a little throat ailment. Team was up 6-0. They missed the extra point on a mishandled snap, and you looked pretty upset on the sideline, but then your special teams came through when Nicky Miller blocked an extra point. Of course, then you had the big safety, Brett Fry, tackling Terry Captain in the end zone. So I guess there were mixed emotions throughout the games in terms of the performance of your special teams.
It's something that we work every day, and we've made changes and we've changed personnel each week. Right now we're going with our frontline people. Be honest with you, I'm tired of the mistakes that we're making. So hopefully you'll see a better performance out of all of our special teams.
You said this team had some pretty good depth, Coach, at the beginning of the season, but are you reluctant to use some of those players because maybe those are some of the players on the bench that haven't been performing well when they've gotten the opportunity to play, and that's why you're going mainly with more of your frontline players?
That's correct. This is district, and I put more of a credence on winning district, and you got to play your best during that time.
Now, Josh Andrus had a big game defensively, as did Seth Brown and Michael Miller, your regular guys. And one thing I noticed in this particular game, all your skill position players, just about all of them on offense, saw lots of action defensively. Are these guys just too valuable players on both sides of the ball that they need to play defense and you can't rest them on the bench?
Well, an example would be Michael Miller. He very seldom played any running back in the non-district schedule. First district game, he carried 9-10 times. I knew that we were going to use him in district on offense, and they're both of them on all phases of the game. Those kids, you have to play your best to win.
What about the fatigue factor, Coach? You think these kids have to just condition themselves a little bit more during this course of the season in order to be ready for these ball games?
Well, hopefully we took care of that in August in the non-district games in conditioning, and we do it every week. They're doing a good job. We can spot them some on offense and defense, and that's where the depth comes in.
Now, your defense has forced a lot of turnovers. Unfortunately, your offense has committed about 2 turnovers a game. Now, coming into these games against, obviously, Elton later on today, and then Sacred Heart and Basile, do you feel your team has to play almost perfect football on offense and not commit these 2 or 3 turnovers they've been committing a game in order to win these ball games?
Well, anytime that you have turnovers, you're going to hurt your cause in winning the game. We've been stressing the kids about the penalties and about the fumbles, that the team that plays a smart game and takes care of the ball generally will win the game.
And finally, Coach, you stated that basically the non-district schedule does mean something in terms of the quality of opponents you play to get prepared for the district schedule. However, it doesn't really matter how you finish one-loss-wise. Elton was 3-0, lost their first district game to Sacred Heart. You were 1-2, won your first game against Mamou. However, now is when the district schedule really starts, because you've got all the tough teams now, and Elton should be ready knowing they have one district loss and they really can't afford to lose any more.
Well, I'm looking for Elton to come in really fired up. Last week, they turned the ball over. And with Elton, they're a well-coached team with a lot of talent at the skill positions. And we're looking, and I don't mind telling you that our game plan is to control the ball on offense and play hard-nosed defense. And that's what we always do.
How did Josh Andrus pass this week in practice, Coach? Because he was very ineffective in the passing game, and that's rare for him.
Well, it was, with Josh, he has good mechanics and stuff. The problem was he just had a bad night, and it's nothing mechanical. In practice, he threw real well, and looking for him to have a big-time game.
Well, he did make up for it defensively.
Yeah, I'm real proud of him. He didn't get down on himself, and he played hard for the whole game. And in the fourth quarter, he helped lead us down the field for that winning touchdown.
Coach, thanks for talking with us despite the throat ailment there.
No problem. I appreciate it.
And we thank head coach Dan Chrisman for joining us on a very difficult day health-wise. And we'll be back to run down the list of games throughout the state of Louisiana on your network of St. Edmunds Blue Jays football. This is KJJB Super Sports.
If you want to use the equity in your home without refinancing your first mortgage, you have several choices: a traditional home equity term loan, a home equity line of credit, or a combination of both. A home equity loan or a home equity line of credit both offer the tax advantages of a home secured loan. We're an equal housing lender. Try Parish Bank. Member FDIC.
We're hometown people that you know.
What's the best way to heat, water, and cook in Eunice? The best, most cost-efficient way to heat and cook in your home is with inexpensive natural gas. Natural gas burns clean and is by far the most popular way to heat and cook in homes throughout the Eunice area. For further information on the advantages of natural gas in your home or business, contact your favorite heating and cooling contractor. Natural gas in Eunice, it's the natural thing to do.
Let's run down your schedule of action for tonight. East Ascension will take on Catholic at Memorial. Zachary hosts Central. Estroma's at Denham Springs. St. Amat will host Glen Oaks. Bel Air travels to St. Martinville. Terra will play McKinley at Olympia. Walker's at Mandeville. Woodlawn will host Baker. Lee is at Broadmoor. Redeemer Seton is at Bruley. Parkview Baptist hosts Riverside. North Iberville travels to Point Coupee Central. Cecilia will host Port Allen. Church Point is at Redemptorist. Dunham is at Albany. Live Oak will play host to Episcopal. University is at Christian Life. Clinton is home to St. Helena Central. Northeast is at Jackson. Montgomery at Falls River. Coshada hosts Southern Lab. Livonia is at East Iberville. White Castle's at Plaquemine. Acadiana home to Barb. Lafayette plays at Carencro. New Iberia home to Como. Sulphur travels to LaGrange. Franklin is home to Morgan City. Wasman's at Northside. Hammond at St. Thomas More. Crowley will host St. James. DeRitter travels to Washington Marion. Sam Houston's at Jennings. Leesville is at Bolton. Oakdale hosts Northwest. Ville Platte is at Jeanerette. Welsh is at Iowa. Lake Charles of Boston will host South Cameron. St. Louis is at Opelousas Catholic. DeRitter will host Washington Marion. Westlake is at Rayne. Abbeville travels to Breaux Bridge. Iota's at Erath. Kinder will play Monty. Lake Arthur's at North Vermilion. Welsh will play Iowa. Patterson is home to Ellender. Catholic of New Iberia is at Port Barry. Basile hosts Sacred Heart in a big District 5-1A clash. In another 5-1A clash, North Central will be at Oberlin. Lorville's at Central Catholic of Morgan City. Vermilion Catholic hosts Gaydon. Covington is at Fontainebleau. Ponchatoula will host North Shore. H.L. Bourgeois at Central Lafourche. Hahnville hosts D'Est. Lafourche hosts Thibodaux. Vanderbilt Catholic at Hannon. Bogalusa is home to Clark. Newman travels to St. Paul Covington. Lutcher hosts Assumption. Ellender's at Patterson. E.D. White travels to South Terrebonne. Berwick is home to St. Charles. Opelousas is at Amite. Donaldsonville is home to Booker T. Washington. Springfield is at Pope John Paul II. Varnado hosts St. Thomas Aquinas. Port Sulphur, is at West St. John. Houghton at Alexandria. Bolton hosts Leesville, as we mentioned before. Beauchesne is at Peabody. Block is at LaSalle. And Davidson travels to Northwood Lena. In games played last night, it was Ascension Catholic 27, Catholic of Point Capiz 7, Lutheran falls to Ben Franklin 47-22, Buckeye over Menard easily by 4 touchdowns, 31-3. Huntington falls to Byrd 34-21, Capital edges Sullivan 28-27, Delcombe 27, Westminster 7. In a big offensive battle, East Beauregard over South Beauregard 34-30, Grant over Avoyelles 30-14. Hanson improves to 3-2 with a 31-19 victory over St. John Plaquemine. Lawless is bombed by Independence 63-0. Jules Sumner 33, Pine 6 in a key District 5-1A clash. Mamou loses their second consecutive one, 19-18 this time to Maryville. Neville 17, Bastrop 6. Ouachita Christian over Sterlington 35-34. Pearl River defeats Loringer 45-21. Pineville 7, Bunkie 0. Riverdale over Higgins 28-10. Salmons shuts out Slidell 14-0. Sarah Reed over Abramson 26-7. Marksville has a 14-6 lead in the second quarter, but they squander it and lose to Turlings 45-21. West Feliciano 31, Kenwood 8, and Warren Easton over Kennedy 19-14. As for the Blue Jays tonight, they take on a very tough Elton team. They'll look to continue that trend of winning they started last week in district play by beating Mamou 20-6, but they like to get off to a good start. They started off slowly last week, did have the 6-0 lead at halftime, but Mamou absolutely dominated the third quarter. As for Elton, they made a lot of mistakes last week, as Coach Dan Chrisman referred to in our pregame interview, and they'll have to correct those this week because they are 0-1 in the district, and they need this game badly. Of course, Sacred Heart will be the team that everybody's chasing in this district, and they are playing tonight. Of course, as we mentioned before, the Sacred Heart Trojans are at Basile. That's the opponent of the St. Edmunds Blue Jays here again at home, so that's a good sign for the Blue Jays. They have all the tough teams here at home. We mention that every week. Just to remind you, they have Sacred Heart, Basile, Maryville, and of course, the big game tonight against Elton. When we come back, the start of tonight's game. A big clash between the St. Edmunds Blue Jays and the Elton Indians. That's following these messages on your home of St. Edmund Blue Jay football. King Carl Derwin and Steve Turner return on KJJB Super Sports.
Larry's Tire Service, Highway 190 West in Eunice, sells Bridgestone and Firestone tires. Quality tires by manufacturers you know. When you travel on Bridgestone and Firestone tires, you travel with comfort. Larry's Tire Service also does muffler and exhaust work, alignments, and has 24-hour road service available anytime, anywhere. All good reasons to put your automobile in the hands of the professionals at Larry's Tire Service, Highway 190 West in Eunice, where quality and service come first.
DC Sports Bar and Steakhouse has a great atmosphere for the entire family. Open 7 days a week, the steakhouse provides lunch and dinner with a full menu specializing in steak and seafood. The banquet room is available for private parties and special occasions. Ladies, while you're dining for lunch, you can even enjoy your favorite soaps with a private TV tables. The Sports Bar has big screen TVs for viewing all your favorite sporting events. There's also leather pocket pool tables, electronic darts, and championship shuffleboard games. DC Sports Bar and Steakhouse, West Laurel and Eunice. Visit them soon.
Pure gold means good old rock and roll. KJJB-FM Eunice, Louisiana's Prairie Cajun capital.
The home of real country music.
We're country and Cajun. Proud of it, too. We're KEUN Eunice.